Hey, my name's Bonnie, streaming from Awabakal and Warramai Land, and this is The Good Stuff on Newcastle Live.
This is
Good.
good stuff.
The Good Stuff. Welcome back to The Good Stuff. Thank you so much for all the support so far. If you like the show, be sure to give us a like and share it with a mate. Coming up on the show, we'll be joined by Australian comedian Sammy J. He'll be bringing his show Good Hustle to the Civic Theatre here in Newcastle next week. Whale tell you about a large mammal that locals are losing their marbles over. And Dan will tell us about a new video that gives us a look back at the history of the Victoria Theatre. But first, it's time to find out what's happening around Newcastle and the Hunter tonight.
This is
Good Stuff.
From tonight's gig guide, Ashby and the Tone Wheels are in town for a gig at the Grand Hotel. It's salsa night at the Wicco tonight, so if you're a beginner or you're a seasoned professional, head down, sign up, and you could be doing a bit of merengue. The world's best and only female tribute to Iron Maiden hits the stage at the Cambridge Hotel tonight. Tickets are still on sale. Do yourself a favour. And finally, it's music and trivia night at the Stag Hotel with Nick Milligan tonight. If you've never been before, get there early because this one always sells out. But that's only some of the great stuff you can do around town tonight. Make sure you head to newcastlelive.com.au to find out what else is happening around the region.
good stuff.
Yesterday, we posted about the start of this year's whale watching season with the first sightings of humpback whales off the coast of Niue. The whales, which spent the summer in Antarctica, strange choice, are heading up to Queensland to breed. That means that Newcastle will be a prime spot on the Humpback Highway up to Queensland. Coast XP's whale watching tours will kick off on May 20, and apparently this year's season is set to be one of the best yet. To get involved, be sure to head to newcastlelive.com.au or check us out on Facebook to see what everyone's talking about. Up next, we'll jump into a chat that we had with Australian comedian Sammy J.
Newcastle Live. Newcastle Live.
Australian comedian, radio and TV personality Sammy J is bringing his action-packed show Good Hustle to Newcastle's Civic Theatre on the 8th of May. This show features 15 different characters, songs, and even a cameo from the current Prime Minister, all within 60 minutes, which is absolutely crazy. So I'm very excited to welcome to The Good Stuff, Sammy J. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, Bonnie. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. And I feel exhausted just hearing you read that out because I haven't really paused to take stock. We've just finished up the Melbourne Comedy Festival and now I'm getting ready to take the show on the road, and I've just remembered how much stuff I have to fit in my bags.
So how did the ideas for this show actually come about?
Well, so this show is effectively, it's a final chapter for the sketches that I've been making on the ABC. So for the past 5 years, I've done a little 3-minute sketch on Thursday night just before the news about politics, about society, about COVID. And along the way, plenty of different characters and ideas have been created. And I decided to wrap that up on my own terms at the end of last year, which was, I thought 5 years of doing the same thing is enough, and felt right at the right time. And then it also felt like the right time to cash in and do a tour and say a proper goodbye, because I had some really lovely messages from people who said, particularly during COVID, that they watched the sketches, they'd share them online and stuff. So I thought it's actually, both for me and the audience, a nice chance just to mark the end of the chapter. And so rather than just fade away completely, it's a massive party, and it's been really fun so far. It's not just for people who know the characters or anything, it's pretty accessible stuff. We're doing yoga routines and play school sketches and things, but it's been a really fun, and for me, a really unexpectedly sentimental thing to do, because it's been so long since I've been able to be on stage interstate, and haven't been in Newcastle in 4 years, haven't been to other places in 3 or 4 years. So that's been really awesome as well.
Yeah. And what great timing to be doing these sketches. I mean, the last 5 years has been nothing short of, lacking in material and ideas. How were you able to narrow it down to just 15 characters?
Gosh, well, yeah. So, I mean, sometimes the sketches would write themselves. Like I remember the first week we started on TV 5 years ago was when Malcolm Turnbull announced a bonk ban in Parliament, for example. And towards the back end, we had the Prime Minister tackling a small child to the ground before an election. So sometimes the characters would write themselves, but others were unexpected. Like we did a poem about the toilet paper shortage that we all went through in Australia 3 years ago when COVID kicked off. And it was called The Ballad of Dunny Roll. And I sort of dressed up in a big beard and I was talking like an old bush poet, and then that we thought would just be like a one-off sketch, and then suddenly that just took off around the world, and it was 10 million views online, and I had different TV channels calling me from Europe and America to talk about it, and so we thought, okay, well, there's a character that can stay around, and I have a country music singer called Buster J who's in the show, and my Playground Politics, which is my play school parody. So some of them were. Well, in fact, most of the characters, in terms of the two of it, were very easy to pick because they were the sort of crowd favourites and the ones that I've had the biggest connection to, including the government coach, which is where the phrase "good hustle" comes from, because that's just a very footy type phrase to use.
Yeah. So can we talk about the cameo that features in the show? You actually have the Prime Minister coming in to your show for a cameo. How did that come about?
Well, yes, I don't want to overpromise. He's there on a screen rather than in person, but he was a champion. I've worked with politicians from all sides over the last 5 years. I've invited them to take part in the sketches, and some are more willing than others. But had Liberals, Labor, Greens, the whole lot, and because I'd had Anthony Albanese on the show maybe 5 years ago when he was just in opposition, so he had heaps of time on his hands. I was able to, when he was in the lodge, go, "Hey, remember how I helped you with your profile? Maybe you want to help me?" and he's just recorded a little. I won't give too much away, but there's a narrative involving Kevin Rudd as the Washington ambassador who suddenly he does his hammy, and so the government coach needs to be called up to action, which is where the Prime Minister stepped in. The problem is, Bonnie, people who see it, a lot of them think it's artificial intelligence. And I'm like, damn you, do you know how much lobbying this took with his media people to get this over the line? And then everyone just thinks it's some computer algorithm. So I promise you, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's what a way to, devalue your own work and
massively.
Time. All of your material is described as generationally relatable. So how do you go about creating material that appeals to a wide range of people from different backgrounds and age groups?
It's tricky to do that, and I don't think you can always achieve that. So sometimes I have to sort of decide, that I just have to lose a section of my audience, because some people know me from Sammy J and Randy, which is the stuff that used to offend the grandparents, and now I have this grandparent crowd who watch me on ABC. So there's always the same sense of humor running through it. But it's really satisfying when you can find something that hits all ages. It's not always possible. So sometimes you just have to, you sacrifice some. But I've got one song in the show, which is a song I did at the gala this year for the Comedy Festival in Melbourne, all about growing up in the 90s. And that seems to have hit a sweet spot, because people who remember the 90s, which a lot of people can enjoy, but also millennials who don't know what I'm talking about have still found it humorous to try and learn that we did used to have to go to the chemist to have our photos developed and stuff like that. It's true, Bonnie.
Yeah,
true. I
wow.
can see you looking suspicious. We had to wait 3 weeks to get our photos back. We didn't know what they would look like. And sometimes the chemist would talk about the photos to us and talk about their favourite ones. It was weird. It was weird.
Oh my gosh. That feels like a big invasion of privacy. That's scary.
Huge. Privacy was not a thing in the way we know it now. But also we didn't have our whole lives on the internet back then. So probably on balance, we were more private in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right. Just chemists were the gatekeepers
of
of all gossip.
That was the source of all leaks.
So look, Sammy...
Barry's done it again. He's gone and put me photo up on the notice board outside Woolies. Damn it.
What are you going to do about it? Nothing. So, Sammy, you've had such a fantastic career. I'd love to know, because you've done everything and you've been everywhere. Oh, not everything, but, you've done so many different things. What advice would you give for someone that, idolizes you or would like to follow in your footsteps?
I think the same advice that would give anyone in like the arts, which is just do it. Like, you can spend so much time thinking about it. You can spend so much time having big plans or dreams, but whatever it is, the thing you want to do, whether it's writing a book, whether it's being a comedian, whether it's being a songwriter, don't just talk about it. Just get out there and do it. It doesn't mean you have to stop everything in your life. You know, if you're doing a day job, that's fine. But write a song, try writing a book, try just starting a blog, put your stuff out there, because that's the scariest part. That's the bit we're all most afraid of. And once you put it out there and get that monkey off your back, then you can keep on creating, because there's no end point. You know, it's ongoing. There's no point you get to where you think, I'm finished now. I've done it. And that's been my experience, right down to, for example, finishing the TV show. I felt like that got to a point where I felt like I knew what I was doing, but I was no longer as excited by it, and I want to see what's next. So just do the thing that you want to do in any form, and not in whether it's just to a small audience or whatever. And secondly, I would say decide if you want to get rich from your art, or whether you want to make a living from your art, or whether you just like creating regardless. And that'll really help inform your choices, because a lot of people could get rich from their art by just doing shit mainstream stuff. That's sort of almost easy to achieve. But you'll be dead inside if you do that. And there are a lot of famous pop stars who are probably dead inside, but loving the money, and that's fine. Or do you want to be really pure, and just the thing you want to create is so specific that you don't care what the response is to that. You're just going to make it anyway. And that's great. It probably won't result in a sustainable financial situation, but you can create things and put them out there, and that's fine. Or there's the middle ground, which is the one I've tried to take, which is, how can I take the thing I love doing, keep doing it with integrity, but try and make enough money so it's your living, so I'm not doing something else. And that's a challenging but really rewarding path. It means you're going to probably end up doing stuff like corporate gigs that you're not proud of.
Yeah.
But the more you progress in your career, like I'm now at the point where I can say no to to things that I would feel gross about. But for a good 10 or 15 years, I didn't. I had to rely on that. So you sort of have to push through and hope you're still standing at the end. That's an unexpectedly honest answer to the question, Bonnie, but that's the truth.
I loved that. I loved that. And thank you for your honesty. I can't wait for your show to hit Newcastle on the 11th of May. And thank you so much for spending some time with us.
No, I'm pumped. And last time I was there, I was in the sort of, I think they were doing the Rock of Stedford or something in the big theatre. And so I was in the hall across the road. So this time, seizing the Civic, coming full guns blazing, cannot wait.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sammy.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
A new 3D model has given local historians a unique perspective of the Victoria Theatre in Newcastle. We posted a video of the model to our website that gives you a 12-minute fly-through of the beloved cultural institution. The video, which was created by the University of New South Wales, takes viewers through the theatre's original scenery, gaslit footings, stage machinery, staircases, ladders, and even the space where the flymen operated the rope pulley system to move the scenery in and out of the stage. To see the video in full, head to newcastlelive.com.au.
Good stuff. That's it for the good stuff today. I'd love to say a big thank you to Sammy J. Be sure to grab your tickets to see him and his plethora of different characters at the Civic Theatre next week. Coming up tomorrow, we have an absolute treat for you. We will be sharing some live performances from right here in the studios of Newcastle Live with local musos Melody Poole and Cormac Grant. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for more of the good stuff.